Welcome to another episode of the Filipino Genealogy channel. Today we're going to explore a very interesting family tree, and that is the family tree of the Royal Hashemite House of Sulu. We will also be playing a genealogical game called Who is the Rightful Sultan of Sulu today? As there are several claimants to the throne of Sulu, we will trace the different lines that now claim to be Sultan, and using historical precedents as well as the succession laws that govern Islamic thrones, we will postulate who is likely the rightful Sultan. As a disclaimer, this exercise is simply for genealogical purposes and is in no way an endorsement of any of the claims of the sultans. The Sultanate of Sulu today is just one of the provinces in the Philippines. However, at the height of its power, the Sultanate's domain reached portions of Luzon, Mindanao, and even North Borneo, which today, although part of Malaysia, remains a disputed territory between the Philippines and Malaysia. The Sultanate of Sulu remained independent even during the Spanish colonial rule and was only forcibly integrated into the Philippines during the American colonization. But even after losing its sovereignty, the Sultanate of Sulu retained its centuries-long monarchy, and over the years, sultans continued to reign but no longer rule. The family tree of the Sultanate of Sulu begins with Sultan Shariful Hashim Abu Bakr. Now, Sultan Hashim was not from Sulu. Born in Johor, his family claimed descent from the Hashemite dynasty. Now, the Hashemite dynasty was one dynasty that claimed descent from the Prophet Muhammad. So, any royal family in the Middle East or in any of the Islamic nations that claimed descent from the Prophet Muhammad would be called members of the Hashemite dynasty. Sultan Shariful Hashim Abu Bakr, who reigned from 1450 to 1480, had married Dayang Paramisuli or Princess Paramisuli. Princess Paramisuli was the daughter of Raja Baginda of Sulu. Now, Raja Baginda, the same as Sultan Shariful, was also not from Sulu, but later on, after arriving from Sumatra, Indonesia, he established his presence in Sulu, married a local princess, and was made the ruler of Sulu. But the first Sultan of Sulu was his son-in-law, Shariful Hashim Abu Bakr. Sultan Shariful was followed by his son, Sultan Kamaluddin, who reigned from 1480 to 1505. His son, Amirul Umara, succeeded him. Now, at this point, it is important to point out that during the reign of Amirul Umara, Princess or Putri Leila Menshanai married the Sultan of Sulu, and this time it was Sultan Bolkiah, the founder of the Bolkiah royal dynasty. Now, Leila Menshanai is sometimes said to be the daughter of Sultan Amirul. Some sources also say that she was a sister of Sultan Amirul. But we will be using the record that describes her as a sister and not a daughter of Sultan Amirul Umara. The descendants of Putri Leila Menshanai and Sultan Bolkiah of Brunei continued to reign in Brunei. And they also have several descendants today that are in the Philippines by virtue of their being grandparents of the Lacandulas of Tondo and Manila. But that would be a later discussion. Sultan Amirul Umara was succeeded by his son, Sultan Muizul Mutawaddin Upo. He was succeeded by his son, Sultan Nasifuddin Awal Dirugan, who was succeeded by his son, Sultan Pangiran Budiman, succeeded by his son, Sultan Batarasa Shataga, who was succeeded by his son, Sultan Muwalil Wasit Raja Bungsu, succeeded by his son, Sultan Nasiruddin Ahir. In turn, succeeded by Sultan Salahuddin Kalamat, or also known as Sultan Baktir, who reigned from 1648 to 1666. Now, this is where the start of a political struggle in the throne of Sulu started. Upon the death of Sultan Salahuddin Kalamat, his son, Sultan Sahabuddin, succeeded. Upon the death of Sultan Sahabuddin, another son, Safiuddin, succeeded to the throne, who in turn was succeeded by another son of Sultan Kalamat, Sultan Bararuddin Awal, who reigned from 1690 to 1735. As we saw earlier, Sultan Kalamat was succeeded by three of his sons, Sahabuddin, Safiuddin, and Bararuddin. Now, during this time, the son of Sultan Bararuddin Awal was also already a sultan earlier, because when Sultan Bararuddin became old, his son started to take over from him. Upon the death of Sultan Nasaruddin in 1735, his brother, Sultan Alimuddin I, became his successor. Sultan Alimuddin I was succeeded by his first cousin, Sultan Bantilan I, who was the son of Sultan Sahabuddin. However, this particular reign is not considered as a rightful reign, because Sultan Alimuddin was succeeded upon his death by his own son, Sultan Israel I. Sultan Israel I, who died in 1778, was succeeded, and this time, rightfully, by the son of Sultan Bantilan I, Sultan Alimuddin II, who died in 1789. Upon his death, a brother of Sultan Israel I, Sharifuddin I, succeeded to the throne. And when Sultan Sharifuddin I died, his nephew, a son of Sultan Israel I, succeeded to the throne. Upon his death, he was succeeded by his first cousin, the son of Sultan Sharifuddin I, who was Sultan Aliuddin I, who ruled for just over 2 years until he was succeeded by another brother, Sultan Sakiraula, who ruled for some quite time from 1808 to 1823. Now, this is where the troubles in the succession of the Sultanate of Sulu started. Before he died, Sultan Sakiraula wanted his nephew, Dato Israel Maulana, to succeed him to the throne, as requested by his sister, Dayang-Dayang Fatima Piandao. However, this was not recognized, and Upon the death of Sultan Sakiraula, there were several claimants to the throne. Four, in fact. We had Sultan Tumanggung Bantilan Alimuddin IV, who came from Sultan Israel I, a grandson. We also had Sultan Aliuddin II, who was the son of the older brother of Sultan Sakiraula, Sultan Aliuddin I. We had Sultan Israel the second rather, who was a son of Sultan Sakiraula. And the other one who claimed the throne was Jamalul Kiram I, who was the son of Datu Israel Maulana, who, as we earlier said, would have succeeded Sultan Sakaraula had he been accepted by the people of Sulu as Sultan. And in fact, he had the regnal name already of Alimuddin III, which was never legal. While there was infighting, Sultan Jamalul Kiram I consolidated his power until he became the recognized Sultan of Sulu. And even though some of the other sultans outlived him, Sultan Jamalul Kiram succeeded in passing on the throne to his son, Sultan Pulalun. However, there was a decree made supposedly by Sultan Jamalul Kiram I that upon the death of his son, Sultan Pulalun, the throne should pass to the rightful descendant of Sultan Sakiraula, who is Sultan Aliuddin III, the grandson of Sultan Sakiraula. However, when Sultan Pulalun died, the son of Jamalul Kiram I, Sultan Pulalun passed on the throne supposedly to Datu Aranan. Now, Datu Aranan was the grandson of Sultan Alimuddin II, from the earlier generations of our family tree. However, Datu Aranan was already quite old when the throne was offered to him by Sultan Pulalun. So, Datu Aranan offered back the throne to the Kirams and wanted the son of Pulalun, Jamalul Alam, to inherit the throne until such time when Datu Aranan's young son, who was a minor, would be able to ascend the throne. So Sultan Jamalul Alam succeeded his father, Sultan Pulalun. However, even though Datu Aranan's son came of age, Sultan Jamalul Alam held on to his position and decided to pass on the throne to his own descendants. And upon his death, his son, Sultan Bararuddin II, succeeded to the throne and reigned from 1881 to 84. Sultan Bararuddin, after his death, was succeeded not by his brother but by Sultan Aliuddin III, as was initially agreed upon by the decree made by Sultan Jamalul Kiram I. There was also a stronger claim to the throne by Sultan Aliuddin III because he was married to Princess Lana Fatima, a daughter of Sultan Jamalul Kiram I. So at this point, should they have a child and should have descendants, the family of Kiram would still sit on the throne of Sulu. So when Sultan Aliuddin III came to the throne, he made his son his crown prince. However, upon the death of Sultan Aliuddin, a brother of Sultan Bararuddin II, Jamalul Kiram II, proclaimed himself as Sultan. And he reigned, or he pretended to be Sultan, until his death in 1936. After his death, his brother, Sultan Muwalil Wasit II, was supposed to inherit the throne, but he died early and the throne passed on to Bomidin I. Now, after the death of Bomidin I, even while he was alive, uh, a son of Mualil Wasit II had already earlier claimed to be Sultan by the name of Ismail Kiram I. So, while Sultan Bomidin I was alive, there was also another sultan by the name of Ismail Kiram I. Ismail Kiram I was succeeded by his own son, Sultan Makakuta Kiram. Now, before Sultan Mahakuta succeeded to the throne, Sultan Ismail Kiram had named his brother Datu Punjungan Kiram as a crown prince. However, this was later removed by Ismail Kiram, and his own son, Mahakuta Kiram, became his heir and eventual successor. Now, Sultan Mahakuta Kiram was actually a fortunate sultan because he lived during the time of the presidency of Ferdinand Marcos. And during the time of Ferdinand Marcos, Sultan Mahakuta Kiram was able to receive an official recognition from the Philippine government of his being the Sultan of Sulu. His son, Muedzul Lail Tan Kiram, was also recognized as his Raja Muda or his crown prince. However, when Sultan Mahakuta died, Sultan Muedzul Lail Tan Kiram was still young and unable to claim the throne. So the brother of Mahakuta Kiram, Fuad Kiram, claimed the throne as the successor of his brother. At the very same time, or around this time, Jamalul Kiram III, the son of the former crown prince of Sultan Ismail Kiram, proclaimed himself as Sultan of Sulu and named his brother Ismail Kiram as the Raja Muda or the crown prince. Now, while Sultan Jamalul Kiram was not recognized by President Marcos as the rightful Sultan of Sulu, Jamalul Kiram, because of the very lengthy claim that he had to the throne of Sulu, later on became recognizable as the probable Sultan of Sulu by many sectors in the Philippines. However, upon his death, he only had a daughter, so when he died, his brother Ismail Kiram II succeeded to his claim as Sultan. Now, Ismail Kiram also died later on and was succeeded by another brother, Sultan Punjungan Kiram II, who is now one of the claimants to the throne of Sulu. The son of Sultan Mahakuta, Sultan Muedzil Lail Tan Kiram, was later crowned by his supporters as also the Sultan of Sulu. So we have these two who are claimants to the throne, and we also have the uncle of Sultan Muedzul Lail Tan Kiram, Sultan Fuad Kiram, as another contender to the throne of Sulu. However, even though these three are now the most known claimants to the throne, let us not forget that there are other lines that could put up their claim. For instance, the descendants of Datu Aranan were given the throne, or at least Dato Aranan was offered the throne by Sultan Pulalun when he died. Unfortunately, the line of the Kirams did not honor their agreement with Dato Aranan. When Dato Aranan returned the throne to them, for the meantime, until his son would be of age. If they had honored their agreement, then the descendants of Dato Aranan would have been the ones claiming the throne today. Let us also not forget that during the Spanish period, there was also another line, this time from the line of Alimuddin I, by the name of Harun al-Rashid, who was also enthroned as Sultan by the Spaniards. Now, although his claim is not as strong as the other lines, he is also considered as one of the former rulers of Sulu, and his descendants could definitely also have a claim to the throne, though, again, not as strong as these current contenders to the throne of Sulu. Let us also not forget that Sultan Aliuddin III was given the throne according to the decree of Jamalul Kiram I after the death of his son. Aliuddin III had a son by the name of Pangeran Sarafuddin II, who definitely has descendants today. And they too have a strong claim to the throne, specifically and especially because their line is purely patrilineal. Remember, according to the rules of the succession of the royal house of Sulu, the throne may not be passed on to a man from a line of a woman unless specified by the reigning sultan. But even then, the succession laws of Islamic royal houses have always been partial to the male line. The Kirams, when we think about it, come from a woman, Dayang Fatima Piandao. If we are to strictly enforce the no female succession to the throne, the Kirams would then lose their strong claim to the throne because of their descent from a woman. Now, if we are to go back a few generations, then the strongest claim to the throne of Sulu today would be the descendants of Sultan Pangeran Sarafuddin II. However, we also have to take into consideration the changing times. So while the Kirams are definitely not descended through a direct male line, they have stayed on the throne long enough to have a strong stake to the throne of Sulu. So, aside from these lines, there could be many more. The descendants of, for example, Alimuddin IV and Aliuddin II. But that would be a little bit further from the more recent Sultans of Sulu. We will be talking more about the ancestry of the royal house of Sulu, especially their descent from Prophet Muhammad. But for now, that is our discussion on the royal Hashemite house of Sulu and our postulation on who is the rightful claimant to the throne of Sulu. We hope you enjoyed this presentation, and thank you for watching another episode of our discussion. This is our first discussion of a royal house in the Philippines. Definitely not our last. Thank you for watching this episode. Hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.